How's that looking,
Alicia?
Alicia?
Ah. Are our heads
Oh,
on?
awesome.
Perfect. Good.
Okay. So we're here to talk about how you can take the equity out of your existing home and buy a revenue property.
Mhm.
So I want to use an example of a house that I actually did sell. This was back in July of 2003. I sold this property here in Saanich at $305,000, which sounds like a pretty good price today. Yeah. So my client at the time, I presume, put down about 10% down payment, so about $30,000. And based on the rates at that time,
4.6?
4.6%,
Right.
which was low,
Yeah.
but they went up and they came back down.
They did.
Her payment at the time was $1,535, and she sat out the 5-year term, so she made all her payments for 5 years. So what happened at the end of her 5 years is she had, of course, her principal goes down, so her mortgage went down to $241,000 and some change,
Right, right.
which at that point she refinanced.
Correct.
So in 2008, she refinanced, and the rates at that point increased a little bit.
We were seeing a lot of increase in rates, so this time it would have increased at, or would have renewed at 5.65%.
Okay, so her principal went down. Now her 25-year amortization, she's 5 years in now, so she refinanced at 20 years,
Right.
which is a key,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And her payment though went up to $1,672.
Correct.
And that's largely a function of the interest rate change.
That's right.
Okay, so that was back in 2008. Now fast forward, here we are 4 years later, right? At the end of today's time,
Right.
her principal is down to $211,000.
Yes.
So she's done pretty well.
She's done pretty well.
And the biggest thing, of course, is that house today is about $600,000, right? So the value went up. All of a sudden, she's got about $388,000 in equity in her home.
Right.
So this is someone who was disciplined, made her payments, renewed her mortgages, didn't add on credit cards, car payments, all that kind of stuff.
Great.
So what can she do now?
Well, what she can do now is she can access up to 80% of the market value of her home. So she can access up to $480,000.
Okay, from of the 600,000.
Right.
Great.
And of that 480, a portion of it will pay back that existing mortgage.
Yep.
And will leave her with $268,000 in equity that she can access to do with as she needs.
So there's $268,000 available
Yes.
that she could do whatever she wanted with.
Yes.
Okay, now of course we're talking about buying an investment property, so you know you can go buy a car or whatever. But I think the good idea is to take this money. So the numbers here is if she refinanced to $480,000, her payment goes up to $2,294, and that's assuming that she does a 25-year term again, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Just ease of numbers.
But when you think about it, she went from about $1,600 a month to $2,300 a month, so it's a $700 increase.
Right.
But that's also factoring in the down payment of her rental property.
That's right. That's
Okay.
right.
So what can you buy for $268,000? This is a funny number. Yeah, she could buy an investment property for $1,340,000.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that represents 20% down payment.
Okay, that's great. Now, I don't think she's going to want to do that because you got to look at the return. Like you don't get a lot of rent on $1,340,000 property.
No.
But there's some options. So, for instance, with her $268,000, she could buy 2 houses.
She could.
Yeah.
Yeah, and she could buy 2 $500,000 homes. The required down payment is 20% for each, or $100,000 for each.
Great. So she only needs 200,000 of her allowable 268.
Yeah.
That's great. All right. And with numbers like that, the rent for the house will probably make all the payments.
I would expect so.
Yeah. So that's good news. So the other option we've got here is
3 $250,000 condos.
perfect.
And using the same logic, she'd need $50,000 as a down payment per condo.
Yeah.
So she'd use up $150,000 of her 268.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And again, the assumption is that the rent that comes in from the condos will cover the payments on that.
That's right. That's a great investment.
Yeah. So really, the net difference to her is about $700 a month.
Right.
Well, that's presuming she takes up the whole 268 because she's not here, right?
Yes.
So, anyways, great examples of what people can do with the equity they built up in their home. And again, this is presuming someone has had the discipline to refinance or renew after the 5-year term, instead of adding on amortization. Some people went from their 20 years up to 40 years,
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's a big mess.
Mhm.
And of course, not doing things like adding on credit cards and car payments and all that stuff.
And, yeah, making all their payments on time as they're supposed to, yeah, keeping her good credit, maintaining income that will qualify for the mortgages.
Yeah, and finally, at the end of the day, it's a question of net worth. So for this person here to have her own principal residence,
Yes.
to have 2 or 3 investment properties,
Mhm.
you can imagine how that looks on their portfolio.
It looks really strong.
Yeah, so great things to do with the equity you built up in your home. Okay,
That was much better than the
Okay.
other one.
there we go.